All right, we are live. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for our Spotlight series. We have Yvonne here from the Patesi Foundation. She is the owner of this foundation, and I am just so honored to have her here tonight with us. And so make sure that you welcome her in the chat if you're listening right now. We're just so thankful to have her here. Right now we have, there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot going on in this world, and it is highlighting a lot of very important issues. And I want to be a part of this conversation. And I called Yvonne and I told her, and I said, I want to learn. I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to learn. I do not have all the answers. I will never be able to ever understand what it is like to walk through this world as an African American. And I recognize that. And I want, as much as I can, my audience to recognize that too. And all we can do is listen and learn. And that's the biggest thing. And a lot of us, and it's going around, and it's so true. If people don't know what empathy is now and the definition of it, they're learning about it now. But just as a reminder, the difference between sympathy and empathy is sympathy means that you've gone through it, you can relate to it. Empathy means that you have not gone through it, but yet you have the ability to imagine about how they're going through it, even if you've never gone through it yourself. And so really, it's an important conversation to have. And I hope that we all can gain a sense of more empathy for this movement and just support one another. So again, just thank you so much for coming on here. And why don't you go ahead and just tell us your background about who you are in general, and we would just love to hear.
Okay, so thank you so much for providing this opportunity for me. It's been a very heavy couple of days, I think, for everyone. On all sides, it's just been really, really difficult. And so thank you for providing this opportunity for me to speak, to talk about marginalized businesses and communities. And let me just start by telling you a little bit about me. So my name is Yvonne. I was born in Kenya, and my mom was a teacher, and my father did a couple of things. He was in the police department, he was in the army, and then he found his way to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then there we were able to accompany around the world, and that really opened our eyes of countries and other cultures out there. And I actually doing my Bachelor of Science in Public Health here in DC, and then I did also my Master's in Sustainable Development, International Policy and Management as well here in DC. And that's where I met my husband, and now we have two kids, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So that's a little bit about my background.
Wow, that is so amazing. What an amazing family, and with so many different diverse set of skills and background. Why don't you tell us about your foundation? I know we're going to be diving into a very heavy topics, but what's amazing is that you do have a foundation that is so impactful. So why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so let me tell you, like you said, I know we're going to topics and maybe even talk more about the foundation later on. But let me tell you a little bit about the foundation and how it started. So at some point, I just started to think to myself, as a mom, as a menstruating individual, as a woman, I started to think about all the costs that are associated with that. And I started asking myself, what are people in impoverished situations doing? What kind of support do they have? And so I reached out to my parents and I said, is there a school? And at this point, I was just starting to work it out. I wasn't even sure where the support was going to come from, but I started asking these questions. I'm talking about just how this all came to be. And I reached out to them, and they were able to identify the Emanyunya High School and the Msira Health Center from the village where I am from. And I thought that was an amazing choice that they gave me, because I always tell people that circumstances have made it so that I am, I'm not there, that I got to have different experiences, but I always see myself as one of those girls. I always see
Mhm.
myself as one of those women, and I'm part of that community still. And so that's how the Patesi Foundation, in short, was born, just starting from identifying the school, the health center, and then the details started coming together.
Yeah, wow. That is so great. And, like as we touched earlier, walking through life as an African American, including
Mhm.
starting opportunities, is different than if I was walking through life with
Mhm.
opportunities. And I would love for you to just touch on, like, did you like just describe your experience of being an African American woman as an entrepreneur in your journey and with that.
Okay. So I will talk about my experience, but I also want to, at the same time, highlight the experiences that are felt across, people of
Mhm.
color and people who are Black. So I just want to bring that out to light and provide that information for everybody so that we can have, constructive solutions available and for people to understand. So as there are a couple of challenges that, that I've faced, that people of color face. And let me just start by saying one of them is lack of support. So
Mhm.
you'll find that people who want to start businesses, like for me, when I wanted to start my business, I was so excited. I reached out to people and I said, hey, people that I knew, my, former classmates, my family members, that's how you start. You're excited about your ideas and you want their support. And I got a lot of people who are very, excited for me, and a lot of people who, some people never responded, and that's okay. That's okay. But you'll find that lack of support initially is there, and
Mhm.
support that can sustain, the start of a business.
Mhm.
A clap and all of that is great, but there's much more to starting a business than that. So I just put my heart into my pursuit. I started doing gig jobs to fuel my websites. To I sat down, sometimes I'd wake up with all these ideas, I'd write them down. And you'll find that also people of color will reach out to families, right? You start with your families, and you will reach out to family, but you'll find that a lot of the a lot of those people that I'm out to are also going through difficulties, are also going through challenges. So you will, and that lack of support stems from that. It stems from the fact that they're also struggling to support themselves and also struggling to support their families. And
Mhm.
so that lack of support is there. And a lot of people will say, hey, but there are a lot of businesses now, Black owned, and a lot of businesses out there that are owned my system. But let me just repeat what I just said.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will say that there are a lot of businesses owned by Black people, people of color. But what they don't realize is, and when you start to look into the research, you start to look into the numbers, is that a lot of those businesses will fail at much higher rates than businesses that are owned by people who are Caucasian. And
Mhm.
it's such a challenge for people of color. And you'll find that there are all these systemic biases that are, that live in the system,
Mhm.
and that hold people back. And so that's an issue. And I realize that significant gaps of resources. So you'll find that, like for me, I mentioned about, starting to do gig jobs in order to website, have an inventory, and we'll talk about Patesi Global later. But you'll find that finances are hindered by social economic statuses, and which are low for a lot of people of color. And you'll find that banks are less willing to lend to people of color, and so are investors. And it's this hidden and unconscious and implicit bias that is in there, that people don't even realize. And that's why I always say, just take a moment and start to analyze. Look within. It's a process of unlearning and relearning. Look at your surroundings and start to ask yourself, what biases are represented by my surroundings, whether it's my home, whether it's my circle of friends, whether it's my workplace, whether it's my workmates, whether it's my employees, whether it's my children and their circle of friends, whether it's the toys that are in my home. What schools do I enroll my kids in? What do the people in those schools look like? So that's the implicit bias that I'm talking about, that people don't realize exists, but actually plays a huge role in continuing to marginalize certain populations. And so you'll find that is real and true in finances, and lack of those resources and finances, and an issue that's a huge issue that people of color face. Another thing that people of color usually have a challenge with, and like I said, I'm talking about my experiences, but also other people, is lack of mentorship. So you'll find that people have a specific skill set. They have, they've been there, done that. They have, a wealth of knowledge, but they will not. You'll find that they may not reach out to or look for Black-owned businesses to help them in terms of mentorship. They might mentor people who are maybe Caucasian, or have businesses that look promising, way more promising than maybe some of the businesses owned by people of color look. And so you'll find, and that's why there's that quote that talks about, the grave is one of the richest places on earth, because that's where all some cures lie. That's where a lot of billion-dollar or multi-million-dollar businesses lie, because people either did not take a chance, or other people did not take a chance on them. So those are just some of the issues that I feel exist, and I feel people from marginalized communities face.
Yeah. Wow. It's one of those things that you touched on, and it's a sense of that implicit bias. You don't even know that you have this bias, but it's in the things, and like you said, it all the way down to, what toys am I even allowing my kids to have? Like, how I think that one of the biggest things is, and maybe you can speak on this too, is just exposure to different cultures. And the more that we talk with people of different cultures, the more that we can expose ourselves into different environments, and the more we are from back when, for our children and the next generation, and being intentional. It's that sense of intentionality to look at yourself and say, okay, but you may not be, you can say, okay, maybe I'm not racist, but it's those implicit biases that you don't even know that your mind goes to when you see certain things and when you do certain things. And so I just, I think that is just so, so, so good. And I hope that people, you touched on a lot, that people can be able to look at themselves and say, what are things that I can do, that I can change? And I absolutely love that. And, you did have a lot of different challenges, but was there anyone who inspired you to push through those challenges? Because you persevered, and look at you now. Now you're an owner of a foundation and of a whole nonprofit. And so who inspired you to push through those challenges?
Oh.
If there was any. Did that go through? Our Wi-Fi is
what your question was.
Sorry, everyone. Our Wi-Fi is a little lagging, but please hang in there because it is so important. Did you happen to hear my question?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay. So what I was saying was that you've gone through so many different challenges, but you've also persevered through those challenges by starting a nonprofit. Can you touch on just anyone that maybe has inspired you to push through those challenges, or a book, or just anything that's helped you just continue to push forward?
Well, I can tell you right now that my network of people that I used to personally work for, not necessarily corporations, my family, and just the people that I have as part of my team right now, those are such an amazing group of people. But if I was to start at the core, I would say that my parents are
Mm.
such role models, I'm telling you. And I'm so lucky to be able to speak this way because I know that a lot of people were not raised in such positive and in such positive environments. And so our parents have taught us, even through challenging times, to remain humble, to persevere, to become resilient. And no matter what you're going through, understand that there are other people out there who have it worse than you do. And
Mm.
let that drive you to appreciate everything that you have and just to keep on going. So that's definitely, I mean, I have an amazing set of parents, and I'm so lucky and thankful for them.
Wow. The fact that you can even say, just again, looking at it outside of yourself and say, there's people who have it worse than me. I think that, I mean, again, that is the key, is to look outside of ourselves in so many different situations. And I think that is, it's just very impactful. And I hope that we all can adapt that mindset into our lives, because that is just so good. And, with that, you've had to obviously pivot through a lot of different challenges. But even right now, in times of today, there's protesting going on. There's, there's fighting. There's people on social media wars.
Mhm.
All of that's going on, and it's one of those things where it sounds like, and it even seems like everyone's on one accord in some way, but there also are people who obviously are not on that same accord.
Mhm.
But I want to know, what are you adapting to? What are you changing? Because there is a spotlight on this issue right now of racial inequity, and I just want you to speak on what are ways that you're, even in your foundation or just personally, just adapting to and implementing based on just what's happening in today's society.
Absolutely. So, in terms of our foundation, we're highlighting even more people that we're partnering with who are from marginalized communities, other organizations, as resources so that people can start to learn about other entities out there that are trying, that are out there and trying every single day. And personally, for example, tomorrow I'll be talking about how can parents and teaching parents, how can parents help their children learn and embrace the beauty of and the power of diversity? Because this pedagogy that needs to important pedagogy that needs to take place, that looks at breaking down labeling, that looks at breaking down cultural appropriation, and just teaching people about how diversity can actually enhance communities. And so those are just some of the things that we're doing moving forward. And I hope that people will be able to also log on and learn alongside us. And I also have so much to learn as well. It's not about me asking people to look within. I'm also starting to look within myself and to look at what biases I might have. And so those are just some of the things that we're doing moving forward, just shining the light on some issues that people might find difficult to talk about. But what is unfortunate is if people turn away and not really pay attention to what's really going on, and us uniting and finding ways to uplift one another. I think that's really important, and that's my goal moving forward, whether it's through social media, through our foundation, through any other entities or partnerships that I'm involved with as well.
Yes. It's that unity is something that I think we're all striving for. And I want to make sure that you can hear me. Can you hear me right now?
Mhm.
Sorry, everyone. Our Wi-Fi.
I can.
Can you hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure. Um, so what I was saying was that having that unity, and I think the beauty right now is that, at some of these protests and on social media, and just whether people are voting or whatever it is,
Correct.
I'm very glad that we're seeing all different races that are coming together. I think that's what's making this movement even just so powerful, is that you see white people there, Asians, Spanish, every ethnicity is representing right now. And I'll just even speak for myself. I mean, and I'm sure other people may be thinking this too, but how can we support people of color, and owning businesses, or in general? I think there is this sense of being so afraid to say the wrong thing,
Correct.
and so afraid of doing the wrong thing, that people are either reverting to silence, or they're reverting to
Mhm.
their impulse without asking questions, and without educating themselves in some way. And so how do we find that middle ground? And if you could just speak on just even helping us, helping me, just become a
Mhm.
better advocate for the African American community, and what can we do to help?
Sure. Let me just start by saying, if people want to see real change in their communities, if they want to see successful entrepreneurship become a reality for Black people and people of color, then they have to be very intentional about their actions. And
Mhm.
it's great to identify an organization and do a one-time donation, but that is not enough to sustain that business or that organization or its mission or its programs moving forward. Donate, but then also talk about it. Make it part of your life's mission to scream from the rooftops, even if it means putting a once a week reminder alarm on your phone that says, I'm going to post about this business on social, on my personal or my professional social media or network. Do that, because you are becoming, by doing so, you become a bridge between marginalized communities and the resources that are available out there. Make sure you partner with people of color. Make sure that you are providing any information and resources that they need. Now, also, create what I call, and this is, you can take the concept of microfinancing or micro savings and use that concept and create your own circle. Now, those people, they come together, put money together, it goes to one person, then it rotates. Create what I call a circle of friends and sponsor businesses once a month. Bring your finances together and sponsor a business, and promote that business. As I said, share it in your with your friends, in emails, in text messages. Purchase from from businesses or organizations owned by people of color or Black people as well. Make sure you promote them, because when you do so, you are not just purchasing or promoting, but you're also sustaining this. It's such a domino effect. You're sustaining their business, but you're also enhancing their livelihoods. You're also providing them with opportunities to continue supporting their families. We're all human, and we're all trying to do the same thing. So those are just some of the things. If you're able to mentor an organization, find an organization, research and look it up, and mentor those organizations. People are so in need, and all they need is a chance. Is a chance to be able to, pursue their goals and their missions. And I think that these are just a few of the things. Talk about it. Be willing to have, so I heard about this suggestion the other day, and I thought it was great. People have book clubs. Why don't you get books that talk about diversity and discuss those books? Like I said, buy diversity toys for your kids. Make sure that they're learning from a young age, because that foundation is so important. So these are the many ways that people can support marginalized communities and help them, move forward and be uplifted.
I love that you have those suggestions. I would never have thought of those things, of coming together, reading a book together, sponsoring a business together, and uniting in this. The more that we come together in this, we'll be
Mhm.
able to make even greater the impact. That is just so good. And, for everyone listening right now, I hope you're taking some notes because this is the chance for us to, like you said, be intentional with our actions and even as intentional as setting an alarm. Those are just things that I'm definitely going to implement, and I hope that our listeners will think about that as well. And so, you do have an amazing organization, and I do would love to just continue to touch on it because we want to support you. We want to support you and everything that you're doing. And so, for the Patesi Foundation, I know that on your website it says that you're partially powered by the Patesi Global. Can you explain a little bit about Patesi Global and how those two relate to one another?
Sure. So about over 2.5 years ago, I was expecting my son, and it was around that time that I left the nonprofit that I was working for. I loved it, but there are times when I felt as though my voice was not really being heard, and it was a time of reflection for me. And so I started thinking about how can I create a source of income for myself, and how can I, even though I'm creating that income for myself, once again, how can I enhance other people's lives and their livelihoods? And so I started Patesi Global. Once again, I reached out to my parents. I told you they're great. And I reached out to them and I said, I want to be able to sell products created by marginalized artists in Kenya, and showcase their work here in the United States. And for example, the Ronald Reagan Trade Center, in bazaars in Maryland and in Virginia, and I wanted to give them a chance to compete at the global market. And so that's how the Patesi Global business began. And my mom, she did the legwork, and she kept on encouraging me, help be the bridge between me and the artisans back home. And so I decided that 10% of my monthly sales from Patesi Global would power the Patesi Foundation. And that's what I mean by the Patesi Foundation is partially powered by Patesi Global. And I know we started talking about the foundation first, but I was waiting to talk about how even there's an even deeper story to how the foundation came to be.
Yes. And, I know that, me and you have talked, obviously, and I know that you partner with schools. And I know that that's something that you, with the Patesi Foundation, it is to help women and empower them to be more educated about our bodies and the things that we need. And why is it so important for you to partner with schools? Why don't you speak on that?
Absolutely. So this is going back to that foundation that I was talking about, laying a very solid foundation, partnering with schools, educating kids. And I'm not just talking about girls, about menses, but also boys. Educating them is so important because you provide them with the education that they need to make informed choices moving forward. And partnering with schools also gives us another opportunity. It also opens another door to us creating a brother sister school program where schools here can learn about what not only about menses and youth reproductive health, but they can also learn about the challenges that schools in places like Kenya are facing, and then they become a sponsor for those schools. And not only become sponsors, they can do donation drives, they can do fundraising activities, and there's a friendship and a bond that I'm going for because I want these children to learn about each other and about each other's cultures, and to be able to create this cultural exchange type of program that will benefit both sides. And so that's why it's important for me to be able to partner with schools. I have one of my team members who will be doing that very deeply when schools reopen, talking to school officials, maybe getting us a space in PTA meetings. We have so much that we're putting into our foundation as well, and we want to make sure that when everything reopens, even though the coronavirus put us a step back, that we hit the ground running.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing probably, and you can speak more on this, but alleviating the social stigmas associated with menstruation, postpartum hemorrhage, like all these things that you're able to provide not only resources for women to be able to use these items for menstruation, but then to alleviate that stigma by educating men to understand this as well. Because this isn't, you know, men, you have to deal with women. We're here. It's in the you you got a mom, or you maybe have a sister, or you have a friend. I mean, we're all in this together. So we go through things every single month, and we have children and all these different things. But it's educating them, because there's that social stigma around it that makes people feel uncomfortable. But really, it's important for everyone to be on the same page. And then once people are more comfortable about it, it's when we talk about it. And so, are there other things that you do to help alleviate that stigma, or just really emphasizing with educating men and boys on this?
So, as you said, that's a huge, huge part. I call it the man in menstruation, because even my father reached out to me and he was like, nobody ever talked to me about this. And so I start to realize the importance of educating men and boys. And if we do that in schools, then we're talking about positive, in there are elements of positive masculinity that must be nurtured. And so we're talking about empowering not only the girls, all menstruating people, and the women with these combined interventions that we're bringing in place, and through also our peer education program that people can go on our website and learn about. But we want to be able to provide opportunities for also men to thrive and to become allies, to become advocates. I mean, just imagine, a girl in a situation in class and having her classmate who is a boy reach out and offer help because he understands what's going on, because he has that knowledge, he has that education. And so you start to eliminate discrimination and stress that all menstruating people face, and you start to provide opportunity for men to become better classmates, better husbands in the future, better partners, better business owners, better bosses, better co-workers. And so we will continue to push for that and to continue educating them and bringing them into the conversation as well, because they need to be involved and they need to learn. And not just men, and you're talking about dealing with schools and health centers, we're talking about staff in general. They need to be included in that education, because a staff member can say something that can affect a girl for the rest of her life. And
Yeah.
so we want to provide that information for them to also learn and understand that this is a normal, just normalizing the conversation surrounding menses and postpartum bleeding. And it's so important too, because women also need to be able to recognize signs if something is wrong. And talking about that education, postpartum bleeding is the leading cause of maternal death. So it's all of this is all, it comes together. And I just want to continue pushing and pushing and pushing for that.
Yeah, I love that before you said that you want to get into those PTA meetings, because I think that's what's
Mhm.
going to help so much with educating the staff. Because,
Correct.
again, it's just continuing to educate, because you're right. If the teacher were to say one comment to me and I'm having an embarrassing moment, I will remember that forever. Or a male teacher saying something, or my classmate saying something.
Mhm.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when it comes to just supporting you, what are there any like campaigns that we're able to help support you with to just advance this mission?
Absolutely. And let me just say that even with the campaigns that we have to support the girls in terms of providing them with menstruation products, people can go ahead onto our website to the donate button, the donate page, sorry, and they'll find options to sponsor girls for a whole year. And when you look at the exchange rate between the United States and Kenya, you'll see that it really does make an impact, because you'll spend less than you would spend if you purchased from here, and you'll be able to sustain those girls over a long period of time. And thinking just beyond providing those products, we're looking at reducing the number of days girls miss in school and all menstruating people miss in school, because that starts to affect girls. That's what that absenteeism contributes to dropout rates, contributes to a lot of stresses that they continue to experience at home. There's that stigma, that isolation, all of these things that we're working to alleviate. And so that is one program that, and sorry, before I even move forward, if you look at those missed school dates over a period of a year, it's a lot. It is so much. And that is on top of all the other stresses that they're facing. So, supporting the schoolgirls is one of our campaigns. Then you have supporting the mothers, with maternal pads, for the first 4 weeks post birth or 6 weeks post birth. And it also helps them in supplies for their newborns. We have what we have called recently the Patesi Foundation Coronavirus Response Fund. And what that does is that we have partnered with the Vihiga County Governor's Office in Kenya, and that is the vicinity in which our target population resides. And we have partnered with them for them to be and the fact that schools were shut down, it's been very hard for us to access our target population. So partnering with them and having them support us in that way, they have a coronavirus response fund too, and they're able to not only provide menstruation products for our target population, but they're also able to provide assistance in other ways because of the coronavirus and the way it has affected the economy. There's food insecurities now, and there's housing insecurities right now. So that is a campaign that is so critical at this point, where people have lost their homes. Our target population has been affected by this. They've lost their homes, their farms, which they use to feed their families. And so these are the additional stresses that I keep on talking about and saying, make sure that you continue to be consistent in your support for organizations that have missions such as this one and that are owned by people of color who are focused on helping other marginalized communities. And then the other initiative that we have is we have an Amazon wish list to help, because we said that we also have to start creating impact here locally. And so we are partnering with congregations, and we're asking them to provide us with information regarding some of their members who may be in need of pads. So people can visit our Amazon wish list and contribute to that as well, if that's what they would like to assist with. So these are just some of the initiatives and campaigns that we have in place. People can definitely go to our website to find out more about these campaigns and other ways that they can help beyond what we've already talked about, because we've listed those other ways there as well. The mentorship that I talked about, the specific skill sets and things that we definitely need support with.
Yeah, and by the way, everyone listening in, we do a Spotlight Series recap post always on Fridays. So we will post all these opportunities for you all to be able to help contribute as well. And I love when you said consistency in the support. It's making sure that we remain consistent with our support, setting alarms, putting calendar dates, just putting goals for ourselves to say how many, here are my top organizations that I'm going to support for the next 6 months, the next year, or whatever that may be. So truly just keeping that support going. And so I just really want to thank you so much for coming on here. It has been such an powerful and impactful time for you to join us here. And I want to just ask lastly, if there's anything that you want to add to the Patesi Foundation that we haven't covered yet, and if there's anything that you want to add there.
So I think I've covered a lot about our organization, about how we how they can support those businesses and those organizations and those communities. And if there's anything else that I've missed, I would love to ask my team if they're on to, type it down. So but I'll research particular issues with this point. If there's anything that you guys have in the comment section that you want to ask, about to be able to come up with it, just be able to address that. So, yes. I'm sorry, I don't know what
I don't
happened.
know what happened.
There's
You
such
know
an
what?
issue today.
Whatever's trying to make this conversation not happen, we're pushing that to the side.
Yes. But sorry, I just wanted to say, and just to go back to the beginning, in terms of, you witness this pain and these struggles that people in marginalized communities face, that people who are considered minorities face, people who are Black and people of color, and you might not be able to understand or identify with those pains and struggles. But what you can do is recognize that they exist, and then start to take those steps to, change, to create change in your communities, and even beyond your communities, if your community, is not as diverse as maybe you would like it to be. And once again, just being that bridge between people and resources. And I also want to encourage anybody who is, from a marginalized community, who may be watching, or is a person of color. It is time to not only take space, that is not enough. It's time for you to also be willing to unite with other people, to be willing to reach across race lines, and for all of us to find equality and sustain it over a period of time. And I tell people who own businesses, if you own a business, make sure you hire a diverse team. And even if you hire a diverse team, go an extra mile and a step further. Make sure that you're listening to them, because you'll find that in a lot of situations, people are hired, but they're not treated fairly. So it's almost why did that even happen to begin with? It's very apparent in how much people are paid, in how much in the voice that they're given, and how much they're listened to. And so I just want to encourage people who own businesses to do that, to provide that space, because I find that people of color are hired, and but they're silently, and it's sort of like this subtle message that you're hired, but and you're gonna be paid less, but you're expected to work twice or even thrice as hard. And so I just want to encourage people to be open to others, to promote that diversity. And I think that moving forward, we will be able to start something, but it's our children moving forward be able to sustain it. And so with that, I just want to say thank you so much. And I'm so happy that I had this opportunity with you, and to talk about these important issues that are taking place in our society today.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming on here. These obviously aren't easy conversations. They're not fun conversations to have, but they're absolutely necessary conversations to have. And, everyone listening in, you don't need a platform to do this. You don't need a platform with bad Wi-Fi, but you just need a conversation. Call up someone. I've had more private conversations this week and last week and just coming weeks with my fellow friends of color, just to educate myself. And I just encourage you to just continue to do that and just listen, just hear, ask questions. Just be slow to speak and way more ears open to listen. So I just want to thank you all so much for listening in. If you have stayed till the end and have gone through all of our technical difficulties and have listened in, we are so grateful for that. I know that this was a very impactful message, and I'm so excited to do the recap so that we're able to post all those notes. But for lastly, what are ways that people can connect with you? What's your social media handles or anything like that that people can stay connected with you?
Absolutely. So people can visit our website. When they're on there, they can sign up for a newsletter, which will go out once a month. And we'll have a lot of information regarding the work that we're doing, other opportunities that have come up in regards to how they can help. And I know people sometimes think it's all monetary, but it's not. There's so much that you can do beyond providing funds. And so those will be listed there as well. So please do sign up for our newsletter. You can send us an email. Our email is listed on our website as well, or visit us at Patesi FDN on Facebook or on Instagram, whichever one that you're connected to. So those are just a few ways that you can connect with us. And through Kara, Kara has provided us with this opportunity and this platform. If you wanted to speak to us through Kara, then please feel free to do so as well.
Yes, please feel free. I would be more than happy to connect any of you to Miss Yvonne. So thank you so much for jumping on here. This is such an impactful conversation. And again, thank you everyone for listening in. Make sure you tune in next Thursday at 7 p.m. for our next Spotlight series. Again, thanks so much for coming on here. And I hope you have such a great rest of your night.
Yes. Thank
Bye.
you, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.